You see the front left-hand wheel is wet there. Now, I've just been taking this out for a long drive and I just stopped here to do this filming and I pulled in and I thought, it's leaking oil out of the seal there. Damn, I've got to get home and we're going to have oil out there. So I touched it and rubbed it between my fingers and it didn't feel like oil. But the thing is, it doesn't look like water either. I haven't driven through a puddle or something like that. So I thought maybe there's water inside the tyre there or something like that, inside the combat rim. So I touch it and I get it between my fingers and it doesn't look like water either. So I taste a little bit of it. And, well, needless to say, the other part of this story I haven't told you is that where I've just parked, some people have just walked through and their dogs also walked through. So I don't think I need to finish that story for you.
That's calm.
And I got that as well.
That's calm.
Okay, peeps, needless to say, what you're about to watch is an unmitigated disaster, okay? Not what was just happened there, what we're about to see, okay? And I'm including it because I think we should see this stuff as well, You don't want to always see things going right. You want to see things going wrong as well, don't you? And I don't want you to think that building one of these and working on these things is always a complete bed of roses, because sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's like being roundhoused in the crown jewels, which is what you're about to see, okay? So before we start this video then, just bear in mind what we're trying to do is difficult. It's regarded as difficult, and it's turned out to be difficult in a way that I didn't think. Online it says all sorts of things, but the way this doesn't work, or I'm giving it away a bit here, the way this doesn't work is not the way we might think it doesn't work, okay, or the general sort of knowledge about it is. So don't get too carried away watching this, just enjoy it and work your way through it, and we can learn something from it as well. And the whole point of this was to learn something, so without further ado, enjoy. Good morning, peeps, it's Greendot 319, welcome to the channel. Now, today, are you ready to watch someone destroy a vintage engine block? Because the way things are going, I think that's what you're going to see today. What I intend for you to see, of course, is me to repair the huge cracks that I have in this World War II engine block. I'm looking over here because it's sitting down here next to me. I want to repair these cracks on it, okay? Last time when I did my engine, the engine which is in this vehicle, I sent it off to a cast iron welding specialist who heated the whole block up till it was red hot and then gas welded it all back together. But in the process of that, the whole side fell off the engine, as you can see here. And they had to weld it all back together, okay? So even the professionals find welding these blocks very difficult. So we're going to try something a little bit different. We're going to TIG braze this block. That's what I've decided to do. So the crack in the block will still exist, but it will be completely covered over the top of it. And for what it's doing, it's not a pressure vessel in a nuclear reactor, it's a water jacket for an old engine. So as long as it is relatively strong and doesn't leak, or mostly doesn't leak, I think we can classify that as being a success. Now the problem with cast iron welding, as many of you of course will be aware, is that cast iron is very, very brittle. And what happens is when it heats up, it expands, and when it cools, it contracts. And when it does that, cast iron, the separate joints in it, they all shrink and they pull together really tight and they crack. Other metals like mild steel have some give in them. Cast iron does not do that. It's brittle and it shrinks and cracks. So heat is really important. So what we want to do is we want to keep the heat out of it when we're welding it. We want as little heat in it as possible. But before we do work on it, we also need to heat it up first, okay? So we give it a preheat. We're not going to take it up to red hot or anything like that. We're just going to give it a little bit of heat in there just to try and reduce those stresses a little bit. I'm not sure how successful that will be. Let's have a look at the block then and see how it's looking at the moment. Okay, here is the patient, looking a little bit different to how you last saw it. Let's just flash up what it looked like. This has been repaired before, I think by the British military. They had a go at it. It's a British rebuilt engine. You can see down here they've done some welding. It seems to be fairly successful, but you can see all these craters and pits in it. That's very normal for what we're going to get. Now, you can see I've chased the whole thing out. Whether this is going to help or not, I don't know. And you can clearly see the cracks in there, okay? You can see it's all, the problem with this is welding, TIG welding does not like rust and dirt. Things have to be as clean as possible, but obviously, we're not going full depth in this. The crud is still in there, so that's going to cause real problems. We're not going to be able to weld this like they do on YouTube channels where they get a nice bit of modern cast iron, off a vise or something like that and weld it all back together. We're dealing with crappy, look in the end of this thing, on the inside of it, you can see it's horrible in there, okay? And that's the sort of stuff, that contaminant is going to get into our weld and make it very difficult. So spitting and exploding and just generally being a complete asshole is what's going to happen here. It actually looks kind of cool. It kind of looks like, an ant's nest or something, when you had the see-through ant maze sort of thing. It looks like that. We put stop drills at the end there to stop the crack going any further. I'm not especially concerned about it further cracking, I must admit. Maybe this is really misplaced for what we're going to see. If it's going to crack, it's going to crack, I think. You can't really do anything about it. But getting the silicon bronze TIG rod on there and getting it behaving itself is blooming difficult. So let's have a look. Right, peeps. First off, a bit of the old Bernie. So here we go. I reckon 100 degrees centigrade. Yeah, a bit more needed. We're looking at like, it's like 60, 50, 60 plus. All right, we'll keep on going. Yeah, 100 odd-ish, okay. I think we can give that a shot. We can start here. We'll try around here to start off with, a straight bit I can really get access to, okay? See how we get on with this. It's going to be fun. Okay, peeps, what you're listening for is cracks and tinks, okay? If we hear a tink and a clunk, that ain't good. That means there's a big crack. A couple of tinks should be all right, but there's only one way to find out. This is very difficult, but we can try, okay? Let's give it our best shot. Oh man, it's all over the place, isn't it? Whew. Look at that, flipping hell. Yowza. Very difficult to start off with. Did not take that well at all. You can see it's just splattered everywhere, all that crap in there. We're doing AC here. Yowza. This is what I'm talking about. Getting it to take is nigh on impossible. Okay, what have I got? Only the opportunity to try again. Come on, you. You can do it. Come on. Get in there and take. Behave yourself. You know you want to. Oh, this is even harder than the goddamn bell housing. Doesn't appear to be interested in taking at all. It's just, look at this, just attacking it. Maybe we need to try a different, the AC worked fine on the bell housing, or mostly fine, but this is just really, this is attacking it. Let's play around with my my things here. Let's change the AC balance. Let's do more negative. Right, tungsten still looks good. Come on. I'm trying to get it to take and not just eat it. Okay. Oh. Yeah, flipping out. She is not liking that at all. Try to feed, just try to get this filler rod to take, but you can see it's not combining at all. You need to get it to eat into the base metal a little bit to start combining, to wet it. And you can see that just, my vain attempt there to get it to stay on. It's bonded somewhat, but god damn, that's not what it should be like at all. She's not very well behaved. Let's have a rethink. Let's try something different. If this isn't working, you got to try something else. Maybe we should try straight DC. The AC worked fine, but let's try straight DC now. Bloody hell. Okay. Ah, okay. All right. Tick. Okay, all right. That was much more controlled. It wasn't, the arc wasn't wandering. It didn't like the AC at all there, but the DC, although I screwed up by just trying to feed rod in there, was a little bit better behaved actually. Okay. I think we can work with this. As I said, this is not easy. It's trial and error. For me it is anyway. And if you're laughing at home, well, I don't blame you. I seriously do not blame you. Notice it hasn't made any tinking noises or anything like that. Cracking doesn't seem to be a problem. It's actually getting it to behave. Okay. Yeah, okay. All right, I think we're on something now. I think we're on something. So that was just a test there, but I was getting a more controllable arc. There wasn't enough power, so I've got to up the amperage. But it was actually behaving itself that time. So AC, it didn't like, which did like the AC on the bell housing, which is weird, but it doesn't like it on this. But I think we're getting somewhere. So if we sort this tungsten out, sharpen it, and then feed a little bit more heat into it, a little bit more current, we're pulsing it now. I think we're going to get somewhere here. Now it's just down to my ability rather than the limitation of doing this. So I think we're getting there. You notice how different it is already, okay? So this is trial and error, right? It's very hard to show you what's going on because obviously it's a really bright torch and things like that, but you can sort of see what happens. I'm here and you can see all this splatter and explosion. You imagine this is all blowing around and exploding all over the place. There's no beautiful little ball to feed into or anything like that. You've just got to catch what's available to you. It doesn't weld like anything else. It's bizarre. So getting this big snail on here, this big slug, is all you can really do, and it's mostly bonded to it. It's you can see it is in there, so it is bonded. But my God, is it ugly? But this is as good as I can do, really. It's very, very hard. I mean, putting more current into it, you'd say, oh, if it's sitting up like this, Matt, you need more current in there to get it all wetted down and in. But I don't think that'll do. I think it'll just blow this bit up even worse. So it's a serious challenge. This. Do not make any two ways about it. Okay, peeps, update time now. I know what you're going to say. You're going to say that is the worst pigeon crack welding ever done by man, but my God, let me tell you, this is something else. It's not cracking the problem. It's not the silicon bronze filler rod that's the problem. It's the cast iron exploding when you touch it. As soon as that gas, the flame hits it, all the impurities, all the crap inside it just explodes and blows your weld up, which is why I'm backfilling, because I'm feeding the metal onto, I'm feeding the filler rod onto the good silicon bronze rather than feeding onto the crappy cast iron. And then it's taking it, you can see here, it's sort of wetted itself down quite nicely here. This is difficult. I've been playing with the settings and I've really gone up. I started off quite low current, but I've gone up very, very high now. And I tell you what, gents, that is, you're not going to believe this, okay? I know purists don't get excited, but that is a welded cast iron blocks for a Willys Jeep. Okay, it's ugly. We're going to clean it up a bit now and rework it. But that is, it hasn't broken into pieces, hasn't exploded, the cracks haven't got any bigger. It has been welded, or brazed at least, mostly welded. So I am pleased with that. It may seem funny, but that is impressive. I am pleased with that. Okay, peeps, what a workout now. Oh damn, let me tell you, that was a challenge. That was more than a challenge than I thought. And like we thought, the cracking, or not like I thought, the cracking is not the problem. It does crack if you're not careful and what have you. But that's a miniature problem. The problem is the dirty cast iron and getting it to behave itself, to get that pool, that weld pool going in there so you can feed in your rod, is practically impossible. The thing just blows up. You could hear it. I don't know if you could see anything. I'll have to look when I go over the footage again. But if you can hear it spattering away there, imagine as I'm working my way across, all the cast iron is just exploding in front of the torch. It's impossible. If you've ever done steel or anything like that, completely different. This stuff is evil. But I mean, something can be done. Is it any good? I mean, it looks awful. Now, those of you who are looking at it going, yeah, that's the worst thing they've ever seen. Okay, look, I'm not pretending it's going to be any good, okay? This is very hard. The idea was, can you do it, or will the whole thing crack and just fall off? Is it possible to weld cast iron? The idea is it's very difficult. It's very difficult. You can do it, apparently. Will it leak? Who knows? Does it have less cracks than it started with? Maybe, maybe not. We're not going to just leave it at this, like this. I am going to dress it up as well. We'll also run a ceramic block sealant through it as well, so any micro holes or micro cracks that I can't see will be filled up with the ceramic, and that'll block it right up. So I'm fairly confident that it'll behave itself after this. Well, that sort of looked like it worked, didn't it? Now, the only thing is, after I did that, I thought, let's put some water in the block and let's see what happens. Needless to say, it was an unmitigated disaster, okay? Niagara Falls hadn't got anything on the side of that block. So, unfortunately, the repair has not worked. Where it's all fused nicely with the base metal, like we thought, that's fine. The dog's back. I've been filming this about 20 times now, because dog's running around.
That's calm.
And I got that as well.
That's calm.
Right. right, where were we? Yeah, where it fused with the base metal was okay. You know, it wetted down and we could see that, and it fused properly and sealed. That was great. But a lot of the places, it was just building up on top, you know, in that big sort of slug, and it wasn't fusing with the base metal, and the water could get out round the side. So really, you know, I have to say, this is a complete failure, really. It's mostly a complete failure. We didn't crack it any further, we just haven't sealed it particularly well. Lots of it's sealed, you know, 80% of it's sealed, 90% of it's sealed, but there's little bits where it's still streaming out of. And if you try and repair it and go into it, you're just putting more heat into it and risking further damage, further cracking, and at the end of the day, I don't think you'll be able to seal it all up. So what's the issue then? Why do we think it's doing this? Now, the problem is with this cast iron in this engine block is that it's in an engine block. It's got water on the inside and air on the outside. And over the years, the cast iron becomes porous. The water gets inside it. It starts to rust. You know, the intergranular structure and the metal structure inside it starts to get degraded and full of corrosion bits and bobs and what have you. And when I'm running the torch on it, you know, you're trying to get a flame, you're trying to build a weld pool and then feed the weld pool, okay? And that weld pool is fusing with the base metal as well. We're just not getting that. As soon as that torch, that flame hits an inclusion of crud, it explodes, blows your weld pool all over the place, and the torch, the tip becomes very erratic and jumping around. So that's why I was sort of backfilling there, because I was able to feed against the melted metal, and that sort of semi-works. And sometimes I was getting good fusion. I could get, you know, a centimetre where it actually fused properly, but overall, very, very poor. And I think it's just because of this type of cast iron, this old cruddy cast iron, which has been rusted and driven in a Jeep for so many years, is, you know, TIG, it just doesn't like it. Maybe stick would work, I don't know. But TIG, it ain't gonna work. So what do I think then? I think we're trying to do this cheaply. That was the whole idea, was to see if you could do it cheaply. Do I think you can do it on your own? No, I don't think so. You know, maybe with a better skill set, maybe you could achieve slightly better there, but you still can't change the fact that that is very contaminated metal and it just explodes. You know, I don't think there's anything you can do about that. So really, I think what would be the next option to repair one of these at home? I mean, if it wasn't to do anything really exciting, the JB Weld down the side there, those cracks when they're all chased out and it looked like an ant farm, I think that's in a really sort of stable position. Those cracks aren't going to get any bigger. You've drilled the ends out and you've dug it all out, so you know where all the cracks are. It's not going to get any bigger, so all you're doing is sealing it by putting the JB Weld on the top of it. So I think that is an economy way of fixing it. Lock and stitch is kind of expensive, you know. If you can pay somebody to lock and stitch, it'll be expensive. The lock and stitch kits are expensive and it's very time consuming as well. So I think lock and stitch may be a very good way of repairing it, but it's still not home cheap sort of thing like we were trying to do here. So what's the simple answer? Yeah, dig it out, drill the holes out, stop all the cracks, find all the cracks, cover it with a layer of JB Weld. And I really think that would be the cheapest way of repairing one of these. Perhaps not the most incredible, cheap, amazing way of repairing one, but definitely the cheapest, and I think it would work as well. So what am I going to do with this one then? It's mostly repaired. It leaks in some places, so what we'll do then is I'll heat the side of the block up, mix up a load of JB Weld, and when the JB Weld gets hot, it really flows really easily, and that'll flow down into all those little bits around the side of the weld, or the pooled weld, and seal it all in really, and then we'll put a ceramic sealant in there as well, and that really will seal it up. So I'm not worried about it leaking in the future. I'm just worried about the fact we weren't really able to achieve what I wanted to out of this, and that's a sort of surprising thing about this, working on these things. But there you go. You never know unless you try, and now we know. Don't attempt to repair a cast iron block using TIG welding at home. You can repair other cast iron things, but an old rusted block, very, very difficult indeed. Very, very difficult indeed. Well, that's it everybody. Enjoy, like, subscribe, don't lick dog pee.